Welcome to episode 19 of the DWRD Net Stationery feed. Today's guest is none other than Azizah of Gourmet Pens. Welcome, Azizah, and thanks for fitting me in your schedule with the rush before the DC Pen Show. Please introduce yourself and just give a quick overview about yourself and Gourmet Pens.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Yes, I'm Azizah of Gourmet Pens. I am known for inky messes and slinging ink and making a mess on pages and tablecloths. And I have my little Gourmet Pen shop, which has a curation of tools for playing with inks and making more messes, which I encourage.
No, that's great. If you're not familiar with Azizah, you're probably new to the pen world. She's one of the OG pen people, who's been around for quite some time that we'll get into in the questions later. But, this is a big thing because when I got into pens initially, I was like, oh, you look online. Azizah was one of those people when you kind of start the pen journey, they're like, oh, hey, look, someone who's talking about pens. So this is going to be a great interview. But to start off, let's jump into our level setting questions. And this one should be a good one. What do you currently have inked? What have you been writing with lately?
Oh my gosh, I think the question is more, what don't I have inked? I am one of those people that has, I'm going to say 80 to 120 pens inked. That sounds insane. And I know it's crazy, but it's because I actually use everything and play with everything. So what I currently have is probably something like 15 Opus 88s with pilot parallel nibs. I probably have about 15 shown design pens with various like monarch nibs or also pilot parallel nibs. And then just my regular pens, like I've got some White Bear pens and Papa J Studios and some Skogsy pens, just in a variety of beautiful materials that match the ink. And then with fun nibs, so like some broads, double broads, some architect grinds, and they're all with a purpose for doing inky messes. So I know it sounds crazy that I have so many pens inked. It's a little embarrassing.
It's not really crazy because, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a big fan of eyedroppering pens or large volume pens. So leaving those inked for a long period of time makes sense because
it's better.
You've got such a large volume. It shouldn't dry out.
It's no big deal.
So
it doesn't dry out, and if anything, I just dip it in some water, keep writing, and we're good to go. So they're always ready, which really helps me just stay creative because it's always ready to go. I don't have to think, oh, I wish I had this pen inked, or I wish I had this ink ready to go. It's already there for me, waiting. So it's actually quite genius.
Well, and it saves you the time of filling, because if the idea hits, or the inspiration, oh, that ink is in this pen over here, you can pick it up and do the thing instead of, oh, let me go find a syringe, let me go find the ink bottle, let me go,
it's
blah, blah,
way
blah.
more efficient to just have it ready to go. Thank
Definitely.
you. I am the epitome of efficiency. That's what it is.
It's forethought. It's
forethought. Exactly. Yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot of pens.
So, you've been doing pens for a long time, but if budget was out of the equation and someone would hand you any pen ever made, what would it be?
I really, really love the Opus 88 with a pilot parallel nib inserted into the section. If somebody gave me that, I would be happy. It doesn't take much for me to enjoy a pen. And for me, that setup with the Opus 88, because it's an eyedropper and with a pilot parallel nib, which is really so versatile, that would be a dream pen for me. And that's why I have so many of them set up like that. That's it.
So since you're an Opus 88 fan, I have 4. Since the Pelican Hub last year, I quickly became a fan. You have a certain model that is the Azizah model, Opus 88, that is your preferred model?
It's the Coloro. I generally prefer the Demonstrator. It's just the flat top version. And it's very similar to the Omar, which is a little more rounded, a little bit bigger. But I just like the Coloro because I take the clips off and they just fit really nicely into my pen case. And it's just the perfect setup for me. They're perfect in hand. I like the colors that they keep releasing because they do the Pantone colors every year. Yeah. And so unfortunately, it means I have committed myself to a new color, at least one new color every single year. So I have to just come to terms with the fact that my pen collection is going to grow every single year by at least one pen. But
see, I find that a little surprising because the Chloro uses the number 5 nibs, not the number 6.
it's
Correct?
the full size version. It's the big one. Yes, the big one.
Because the one Chloro I have has the number 5. My demo has the number 6. So that would make sense of, having the easy to swap around the, ever so popular Yovos or with flexible nib factory housings and whatnot. Any nib you choose.
It's just
like
so
in your
versatile.
Case, the Pilot Parallel and whatnot. Because actually my Omar is sitting right here.
You have the Omar is so beautiful. I have my own Opus 88 finish. So it's a blue, yellow, black swirl. And I picked these ribbons because when I do inky messes, I tend to use blue ink and yellow ink a lot, like some variation of a blue and a yellow. And so I just really wanted this setup. So I have so many of these in my pen case. My own pen.
Well, I mean, if it's your pen, you like the colors because you chose them. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense.
It does. It does. And I'm supporting myself.
Yeah. Self-supporting and supporting Opus 88, which, Opus 88 is one of those brands that's out there and it has its diehard fans, but it doesn't necessarily get the same. It's not as commonly talked about as a Pilot or some of the other bigger brands. But once you go Opus 88, it's hard to not just keep getting more.
Like they're pretty amazing and I think quite innovative with the finishes of the various models. Like they do the pocket version, and they have a lot of collaborations with a whole bunch of different companies and people, and so they've got like so many cute things that it's like you're right, once you discover them, you realize that there's a whole world of Opus 88s out there, and they just match with all your inks so nicely. So that's what happened to me.
No, and that makes sense. And we'll talk about it more later. But in Azizah's store, she does have one of the Opus 88 Gourmet Pens editions that I was looking at earlier. So check that out because those are cool looking with kind of the inky mess body and then the Gourmet Pens logo on it. So definitely check that out. We'll have links to the store and all of the social media and everything in the episode description. But I just wanted to mention that because I saw it because being an Opus 88 fan, not knowing that our conversation would go this direction, I was like, that's kind of a cool pen. Maybe I need to get one of those. So
we just went right over there. Yeah. The Opus 88 to me is like one of the greatest of all time pens. I really, really like them. And I've had some for 7-8 years, and I mean, I abuse them. I throw them in bags and cases and they rub up on each other, and like they still perform flawlessly and they look really good. And so I just think they're just such a great pen, and I think everybody should try one just to see if this is the pen that might become like the addiction pen, like it's the gateway pen, and I just really like them. So I like to sing their praises.
No, definitely. So this one's going to be a challenging question because inks.
Yes.
I mean, you like all the inks, but do you have a general preference of, brand or, what are your general, if you had to summarize your ink preference / selection, how would you describe that?
I can do that. Okay. So I have two general classes of ink. So I have the very safe inks, and the ones that would fall in that category for me would be Waterman, Mont Blanc inks, and Diamine. So those are the three that I will put into pretty much all of my pens, like including vintage pens with sacks, just because I trust how they work and how they are behaved with the materials like that might be in a vintage pen. And so those kind of go in anything. And then I have things like the Sailor inks, and I really really like what Sailor's been doing with their studio inks, their exclusive inks, and I really like them because they're doing a lot of like chroma shading, which I find very beautiful. So those, although I'm sure they're easy to clean out of vintage pens, I don't put them in my vintage pens. I keep them more for my modern pens, like for eyedroppering. And I find that kind of covers the range of colors for me. I know it seems like I probably have 10,000 bottles of ink. I don't. I'm very reasonable. I probably have, I don't know, maybe like 150, which is not insane. I mean, considering I've been doing this since 2010, like it doesn't seem that bad. And yeah, so I think those are like if I were to look at percentage wise, that's the majority of what I own.
See, that's a little surprising to me because I think I have around 150 bottles. And now, granted, I've technically been doing into pen since like 2013, but when I first got in, I had like 6 inks because everything like I found an ink that went to that pen, and that was it. That was the ink that goes in that pen, and it's empty. Fill it back up with the same ink.
Right.
This time around, it's like, let me try colors. I don't need to just use blues and oxblood.
Yeah.
Let me use a light green. Let me use a Kosamusu or something like that. So
right.
But that is surprising. I would have assumed if you would have asked that you had one of the large ink collections, 500-600 bottles minimum type thing. But that's do you do a lot of samples to get other colors?
I don't like samples. I find it frustrating to only have a tiny bit of an ink that I really like. And I know a lot of people say, well, actually try a sample to see if you even want an entire bottle of it. For me, I kind of know if I want it or not. And it's probably because I've used so many inks and I know what I like at this point. And even if it's something really, really light or seems illegible, because I tend to be inky messing with things, I can always make it work for me. So there's really no ink that it's just a no-go for me. So if I'm going to go for an ink, I'm just going to get the bottle and just do it. I'm just going to commit to it. But partially the reason I don't have a huge ton of inks is I tend to do the similar what you did when you started, was like one ink is married to a pen. And I just kind of keep it that way, which is kind of why I have so many pens inked, is because it's like a 1-to-1 ratio for me right now. It's like one bottle of ink is in one pen, and then that's kind of how I keep it. And that's the only way I can remember what is inked with what ink.
No, that would make sense. I was wondering, since you said you had multiple of your own pen in your pen cases, knowing which ink is in there, I guess you could tell by color. You almost have to like put washi or something on the one with the this washi is this ink and this washi is this ink.
That is what I do. So I do something like this where it's really ugly. I just put a little piece of washi tape on it and I just label what the ink is. Otherwise, I will never ever remember. And now that it has been the same ink and the same pens for so many months and in some cases years, now I'm starting to memorize them just by looking at the pen. But when I first ink a pen, like a different pen with a different ink, it's like I gotta practice that muscle memory. So I need to cheat with washi tape.
No, and that makes sense, but if you really think about it, you do like samples. You just happen to fill the sample in a pen. Because
that's true. That's true. Yes,
you're sampling. You're buying it by the bottle because you're committed to it. But with the high volume, like the Opus 88, the first time I filled my first one, I was at Pelican Hub, and Lisa, Olive Octopus Lisa, had some samples, and she's like, "Oh, here's one that matches your pen." So I just open up the vial and dump it in the pen.
Exactly.
And it fit perfectly. It filled up almost the entire thing. I was like, okay, I'm good to go.
Yeah. But then you're out of the ink, right? And that's why I need the bottle.
And luckily, at a pen club a while later because I had written through the entire Opus 88. She had another sample of that. So now that minty green, I need to find a new ink for it. So I get where you're coming from of, it was
Yeah,
the right color for the pen. It matched. It was great. And now it's like, oh, I don't have any more of that. So I can either track
exactly.
down a show exclusive ink
I
or
hate
find
when that
something that,
happens. Oh my
is
gosh,
easy
yes.
enough to find
Yeah.
at a regular retail establishment. So moving forward to the last of the big three, what about papers? What are your paper preferences overall?
Okay. I really like this is probably the most cliche answer. I really like Tomoe River. I'm very specific about it. I like the 52-gram white version, not the cream version. Um, in general, for paper, I like paper that's slightly on the thinner side and that has a bit of crinkle to it, and when you're writing on it when it dries. So Tomoe River falls into that category. Stalogy paper does that. It's not as thin as the Tomoe River, but it's still a little thin and it's crinkly when you ink all over it. And then I would move on to Graphilo paper, which is a little bit thicker, and I think they just announced that it's discontinued. So I don't even want to. I don't even want to think about that yet.
Well, that was mentioned on one of the Pen Addict streams. There is a version 2 that I think Brad was being sent some, so he was
Oh
doing
my
a
gosh.
comparison. You might reach out to
Okay,
him and get the
I
scoop
gotta go
on
check
that.
it out.
Or
Yes,
with the DC Pen Show,
someone must have
from when this
something.
is released, a couple of days from now, you'll
Yeah,
be able to probably find some of that to see if that's one you want to start stocking up on or
I gotta
finding
go test it.
alternates, for
Yeah,
going forward.
this is like when you find a discontinued ink, or or like a hard to find ink. It's like I gotta hunt down paper. Uh, I mean, there's so much paper. There's so much nice fountain pen friendly paper. I also really like bank paper from Yamamoto.
Another
Um,
discontinued paper.
Another discontinued paper. The airmail, like onion skin type paper. Like I think it's so much fun to play with. And then the last one would be the Marumon Namasune paper, which sometimes is hit or miss. Like I've occasionally gotten a few notepads that were a little feathery, but for the amount of paper that I use and that I have gone through, I would say it's still like 95% solid. So I have a lot of paper.
No, and that's actually a follow up question I just thought of. Now, Tomoe has been, the OG
Yeah,
was like the grail. Did you
yeah.
have a stockpile or?
I do have a stockpile. I'm very I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed about the stockpile. When they announced that it was being changed and before they sold it to the new manufacturer Sanzen, I went on a shopping spree and I bought so much paper. But the thing is, I really use up my paper. So this is not a lifetime supply for me. It's probably like 5 to 6 years of paper, which seems like a lot, but it's really not in terms of how fast I go through paper. So I have to intersperse it with something else to prolong its life.
Well, and that's where I've been recently doing a lot of the Yamamoto paper taster packs.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the Sheep Clouds Bond, I think is a close possible replacement for bank paper. And there's
Ooh.
things like that performance wise, it's very similar and it's got a good crinkle to it. So there's things like that of being able to buy a paper tasting pack and going through them. Because I actually have 3 of them sitting right here that made me think of it, of being able to try before you buy. Because ink, you're kind of committed, but paper can be so. You have to feel it.
It's so
There's something
yeah.
about feel and how it writes. Because I write really small print.
Right.
So
Okay.
my paper
Okay.
preference is going to be very different than yours because you're
Right.
throwing ink all over. I'm writing in
Yes.
tiny little, looks like a typewriter type writing. So
Right. Right.
my paper is going to be more resilient. So I might
Yeah.
have different preferences, but I do love the Nimacine or, that's what I use for work notes. And I actually
Right.
started a ink swatching plotter that I have my ink samples in and papers. So I have paper samples and ink
Oh.
samples so that you can see how the ink performs on different
Oh,
papers,
that's
and
so
then
nice.
I ripped out a bunch of the perforated pages of the Nimacine to put in there
Yeah,
with plotter paper, bank
yeah.
paper, Irreful, Usari, Tomoe 52.
Oh,
So
that's
kind of
amazing.
just to have that, because people who are new going to a pen club or a show or something like that, they might just they might not realize that paper is almost more important than the ink or the pen when you really
Yeah,
get down to it. So it
for sure.
helps someone who's new. Oh, look, wait, that ink, that's the same ink across those two papers. Yes, it is. And it
Yeah,
looks completely different. And that's why you need
right,
to
right.
factor that in, if you have a
That's like
certain
a
end goal.
paper orientation plotter. That's amazing.
Yeah, I went down the plotter rabbit hole really
That's okay.
quickly,
It's
and
okay. Me too.
I
It's
got
so
the
bad.
one, and now I have the four. I have a plotter Mini 5 as a wallet. I mean, it went quick, but I
They just
like the ring
multiply.
system
Yeah.
because then I can take things in and out and move them around, and
Yeah, for sure.
do like to like. So
I'm not judging. I also went down the plotter rabbit hole and I lost my mind and I still don't know where it's gone. I haven't found it yet.
well, the good thing
It's
is
yeah.
if you're like, you know what, I'm not using this plotter how it's intended. You pop open the rings, pull out the paper, and you give it a new purpose in life.
Yeah.
It's where a notebook, you can't do that.
Yeah,
The
you're
notebook,
stuck
you
with
either
it.
have to, growing up, how many notebooks did you have that you're like, I can't write in that. I don't have the perfect thing to write. And
Of
then eventually, when
course.
you get past that, you're like, write all the things. I don't care. Write
Yeah.
whatever.
Or you
And
write the wrong thing in it.
yeah, you misspell your name on the title page. This is dead to me.
Exactly. And then you're like, I can't cut the page out because it'll look ugly. So this notebook is just wasted now. I totally agree with you. I could go on for hours about plotter because I have such a dilemma because I did the same thing. I got one and now I have four, including a mini 5, which is so useless and adorable, but I use it. But
I
still,
use it as my wallet now. That's a video I did.
I
I
should do that.
saw some, so I got the card holder, and I've got I bought a bunch of the little mini pins, like the Antique mini ballpoint.
Oh,
I
they're
got
so
a
cute.
Lilliput. I got a couple of things, so that is my wallet.
That's
And
genius.
it's only a couple weeks in, but I'm loving it. And then I
It
have
feels
backup
right.
emergency paper in case of emergency. Break out your wallet, and you can write something
Yeah.
down.
No, of course.
So that does kind of lead into a little bit to the last of the kind of level setting questions. What is your favorite stationery adjacent item? And examples of that, if someone hasn't listened to any of these episodes so far, a bag, a lap desk, a book weight, something that is not pen, paper, or ink that you find yourself using all the time in your stationery use.
Okay. I heavily rely on pen organization because it's the only way I can remember which nib is on what pen and which pen is inked with what. So I use a lot of rickshaw stuff. And so I'll use the 6 pen rolls to organize by makers and by ink categories, like ink colors, like whether it's all like Sailor Manyo inks or all like Waterman inks or something. And I'll also have a certain set which will have like my shown design pens that have Pilot parallel nibs on them. They will all go into like a rickshaw Fillmore case, and so it's got the 3 and 3 slots for all your pens, and so I can put the ones that have the Pilot parallel nibs in there. And so I know, okay, the Fillmore has shown design pens that are inked with Sailor Manyo shading inks that have Pilot parallel nibs on them. Because if I didn't have this organized, it would be sheer chaos. And when people say, what ink is that? And this still happens, but very often I'm still like, I have no idea. But I'm getting better at saying, I actually know the answer to that because I recently re-inked it and categorized it into this particular rickshaw case. So it's all in my head. It's not formalized or written down. I don't have a spreadsheet. I'm not smart enough to use Fountain Pen Companion yet. I really, really should get on that. But they have been a lifesaver for me.
So I have a suggestion because, well, Before I ask my suggestion, have you gotten to the point of getting custom rickshaws made that are color matched to the ink families you're putting in there?
No, but I love that idea.
Because think of that, you could get the yellow, since you can do the full customization.
Oh, that is so
the red one,
genius.
those are red inks. The green one, those are green inks. And then I actually have, this is how I track, things for the podcast, these little Natsu fountain pen friendly cards. Since they have a list, you could just slide that in the Fillmore, and then you know what it is, or use a coloring card or something like that, just to leave it in there. And then if someone asks, or you're handing them a pen case to look through, they can go, oh, that's this.
Oh, I love that.
Because finding the fountain pen friendly index cards was a game changer. I use them all the time. I have the box here. Yes. This is all the episodes. This is how I track all these interviews and whatnot. I write okay, I need to do these things for each guest, and write the episode number and all that. And then having those little to-do cards.
You're so organized. I'm not that organized.
I had to, because I like being organized, but I also have the propensity to get really, things can get crazy if I don't make myself do it in advance. So, learn your strengths, learn your weaknesses, and play to them. Okay, so now that we've kind of covered the stationery adjacent items, and rickshaw, I think by far over these 19 episodes has been the most commonly referred to thing, which makes perfect sense, because it's kind of like Potter. Once you get one, you're like, oh, I need another one. I need another one.
They're
I need
so
the
collectible.
One made by this maker. Like I have the Amarillo stationery 3-pen, and
me too.
You kind of go down that rabbit hole. Or now that all these makers are getting the single pen sleeves as they're making pens, and that's included. It's another rabbit hole, but isn't our hobby just full of rabbit holes? I mean,
it's such a good way to support people that you like in a way that's easy, like it's affordable. Like it's not going to break the bank. And it's functional.
You have something that you can protect your investment of your pens in. Absolutely. But it also has a unique look, and you're showing support for someone sees you walking around with that bright yellow bag that Eric made. Yeah. Oh, they like Amarillo stationery, so that means they might have a pen or an ink that I like or something like that.
Right,
so,
right.
But let's get into the main topic of conversation, gourmet pens. Okay. So to start out, you said, 2010 is when this started. How did gourmet pens start, and how did it kind of come to be?
Okay, this is pretty funny. 2010, this was back in the day, and the New York Stationery Show was still a thing back then. It's discontinued now. They don't do it anymore, but it was basically like a trade show, and only vendors were allowed in and media. And I remember I was looking on the website and I was like, wow, this looks amazing. Like you get to go to this place and sample pens, and people encourage you to do this. So I'm like, okay, I need to figure out a strategy to get in. So my strategy was, if I had a blog, I would qualify as like press/media. And that is the reason I started my blog. And of course, I was already a complete pen addict at this point. I had a large, not an insane collection, like not what I have now, but I was definitely an enthusiast. And so I started my blog, and I just started writing about the stuff that I have and sharing my thoughts and posting photos, because I'm thinking, this is my ticket to the New York Stationery Show. Wow. Wouldn't you know, I've never actually gone, and now it's finished. But I didn't know about pen shows at the time either. So, I mean, it worked out. It worked out really well in that it grew into a bigger blog, and now a YouTube channel and Instagram, and I get to go to pen shows and do cool stuff. So it worked out in my favor, but my initial plan failed.
No, that's one of the best origin stories I've heard so far. I did it so I could find a way to get into this show. And then it went in a completely different direction. I never went to that show. Yep. That show is folded, but it led to bigger and better things over time. So
it did.
It's kind of a cool origin story. But
yeah, it's a little embarrassing in a good way.
Now, this kind of leads into the next question I had here is, how do you think, from you starting, your website in 2010, social media at that time was there, but it wasn't like it is now. So how do you think the rise of social media has kind of helped the hobby, and especially stationery, Instagram, you open it up and, oh, look at that cool pen. I need to order one of those, or look at this new release, or how do you think that's kind of changed the stationery hobby over the time since you started in 2010 till now?
Oh, that's a great question. You're right. When I first started, I mean, Instagram didn't exist. It was really Facebook, which was the cool thing back then. It is apparently not as cool now. I did not know that. But it's really it's put stationery and the affection for stationery in front of the eyes of people who may never have thought about it before, or may never have felt anything, have never been interested in it before. It's put us in a category that's, I want to say, almost hip, because you're right. I mean, of course our algorithms are tailored to what we like, but it's like you open it up and there's somebody else across the world posting about their study notes or something, and their cute handwriting with their cute ballpoint pen after their like junior high classes or something. It's just become so much easier to find each other in a really good way, like to find our people. And I've spoken to a lot of people like at pen meets, like where it's been their first pen meet before, and they have said that they've always felt very alone in their hobby, like they've never really found their tribe. And then they come to a pen meet and then they realize, I never would have discovered this if it wasn't for seeing you posting on social media, and then me having the gut, like someone having the guts to reach out and say, "Hey, are there local pen meets?" And so I just think it's made so much more connection possible in such a great way, and I think we're all just feeding off of it in a good way. Now, there's always a downside, like there's always the negatives of social media, like there's people, like there's trolls, there's unkind people. There's also, unfortunately, the thing of so much FOMO that people are spending more than they can afford. And so like I always worry about that when I talk about new stuff, but at the same time, I'm trying to encourage people, like, you can also just enjoy things that you have already in the same way that I'm enjoying something new. Like you could dig out your pen, ink it with the same ink, and enjoy it. So I'm I think it's a double-edged sword, but overall I feel like there's been more benefits for the entire pen community than adverse effects. But I mean, it's always evolving. But
And
we're a pretty cool community.
And I would see that, because if you think of people who like to write and they're spending time, writing a lot or journaling or whatnot, it's kind of a solitary thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
Yeah.
how, like, think of how Twitch is blown up with
Yeah.
co-working and, people going on there and realizing, because it's kind of how I got it. I was always a pen person, but I wasn't in fountain pens, and I found one in a drawer, like, parents brought stuff from home. I was like, what is this? Post a picture on Facebook, and like, this is 2013. And who sees it? My college roommate and his wife, who I had introduced them, they had gotten into the hobby. So that led to me going to visit them, which led to a road trip to Venice, to me buying a Sailor and a bottle of
Oh
Lockerman.
my gosh.
And, now here we are, 10 years later or more.
Right.
And, I'm having a conversation with someone who, at the time, my friend's like, hey, have you heard of Gourmet Pen? So it's come full circle in a way. But you really do find your people. And even there, within the hobby, not everybody likes everybody in any hobby. You kind of find you can cultivate your subset of the hobby people, of the ones you want to interact with.
Yeah, for sure.
I might not care for how this person presents this. Okay, I don't have to follow their stuff. I'll go over here and follow this person's stuff, or look at this other view, because, you saying that the FOMO thing, I can fully see that. There probably are people who, they want to be in the cool kids and buy whatever as soon as it comes out.
I mean, me too.
Well,
I totally have the same problem.
But then you also have to realize, this is one of those weird hobbies that someone can walk in with a preppy and have the same cool experience as someone walking in with a,
for sure,
pen case full of 12 Mont Blanc. And,
For
with
sure.
crazy stuff, because you can put the same ink in a, $5
You're
pen as you
right.
can a
You're
$5,000
right.
pen.
Isn't that the truth? And you
And
can write on the same paper. You
well,
can,
I mean, look at you. You're taking
you know?
Opus 88s and you're putting in these parallel nibs, you know, an entry level nib, but
Yeah.
you're giving it a different type of life. So,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
when I was at the Arkansas Pen Show this year, Chad of Eel and Anchor, he had a great story that it was like a father and daughter first pen show. This was like a year or two ago at Arkansas, because that's his local show.
Hmm.
They'd never held a pen. He hands him a king of pen and like a
Wow.
it's like right with it.
Yeah.
They're tools, you know. Why would
Yeah.
you not want to give someone the Ferrari to let them test drive it? And
Yeah.
then they ended up getting into the hobby because someone was willing to say, try it. And that's the nice thing with pen meetups and shows and whatnot. You always want to. You might not give all your pins, but everybody has a pin that you're like, oh, this is a Lamy. I don't care what happens to this nib. I can put
Yeah,
another
for
nib on
sure.
there in 5
For
minutes.
sure.
And
I always
just
keep some of those.
yeah.
Like, I don't worry about them pens. I'm like, just try this pen, just see what it's like.
Or you get the
You know,
Penabler pens, the cheaper Chinese pens that you can buy in bulk. And hey, you like that pen? It's yours.
it's
Congratulations. Here's
yours,
some ink.
right?
Go write.
Like, you're good to go. Yeah, yeah. Set them up and they're good to go.
Yeah. So, social media, it is a double-edged sword, and it's up to the individual, because you could be talking about the latest and greatest as an influencer in the space, because you were like a pen influencer before influencing was really a thing, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And the whole influencing world has grown to a different level.
It is so something different now. Yeah.
It's
and now I'm like, no, I'm not an influencer, because what I categorize as an influencer is something totally different.
Yeah,
but I probably am.
Well, in this hobby, you're more of an ambassador than an influencer. I consider a lot of the stationery people were ambassadors. They're talking about pens and inks,
Yeah.
but the biggest
I
thing
like
is
that.
use it.
I like that.
Yeah,
use it.
Whatever, regardless of the pen, be it $5, 5,000, whatever, use it. Put it on the paper and use it for something. Make an inky mess. The Bob Ross method. There's happy accidents. There's no wrong way to do it.
That's my favorite.
That's one
thing
I've appreciated about your
it.
approach, is that it's always just, oh, it's a mess. Well, then turn it into something else. It's a different way of viewing it.
Yeah.
So, as Gourmet Pens came to be and moved on, you've done different collaborations with either companies or makers over the years. So, when did you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I want the Gourmet Pens version of this ink. Or I want the Gourmet Pens edition of this Pasquale pen, or something like that.
Yeah.
So kind of talk through how that came to be, and then as you've been able to continue making the Opus 88 model, or the Ackerman inks, or the different limited releases. So just kind of talk through that process, and when you went from, I wrote a blog to get into a show that doesn't exist anymore, to now releasing your own edition of various pens, inks, and accessories.
It has been a really crazy journey. I always downplay it to myself, because it doesn't seem like a big deal until somebody else asks me to look at it like you. And now I'm thinking, you know what? It has been really cool, because you're right. What started out as just a passion project to get into the New York Stationery Show and failing at that has turned into, kind of a living. And it was really prompted because I was just so genuinely excited about the makers and the material possibilities of like a custom pen, and the color possibilities of a custom ink, that I just really wanted to get it out into the world, because I was so excited about it that I wanted other people to have it too. So it really all started because I was just so passionate. Like, I was so eager. And I think my first collaboration was actually with Ackerman, with the pink ink. And that is one of the biggest honors of my life, because this is like a world-renowned highly prestigious shop in the Netherlands, and they're like recognized by the royal family there. Like it's such a big deal. And little old me, and I've got a pink ink on their shelves, and it's just like the coolest thing ever. And I moved into the pen collaborations. So my first shop collaboration was with Hardy Pen Writes, and Greg, bless him, who has passed now, he was such a hoot, and he hated pink, especially hot pink, and he hated glitter. And what do I ask him to do? I'm like, can you make me a really disgusting, like grotesquely hot pink pen full of glitter? And also, he loves dogs. He's like, I'm not a cat person. I'm like, can you make me a roll stop that's a cat? I feel so sorry for him, but he was like, is this a joke? And I'm like, no, I'm 100% serious. But and the reason was because I just loved him so much, and I loved what he was doing, and he was willing to work with me because I was really like, it was my first collaboration, and he was just like, let's do it. And so it's grown from there, from just like this little nugget idea of small collaborations here and there into doing collaborations with like Pens by Pasquale. I've got with Franklin Christoph. I've got a couple others that I could mention later, like coming up. But it's just like it's so shocking to me that, first of all, people are willing to even entertain the idea of my collaborations, because it could just be nothing. And it's just, I'm so excited, and I'm trying to turn what I see as inky messes in my head into collaboration so that people can enjoy colors and just the makers. And like the makers are so awesome. Like they're just so eager and willing and creative, and it's just such an honor to get to work with these people, that it's just it's kind of turned into its own being, where it's no longer just about the collaboration. It's about like messaging each other and being like, here's the material I poured, what do you think? And we're just cracking jokes and sharing inspiration and ideas, and it's become a rapport that is just so encouraging. And this sounds insane, but makes me feel like I have a purpose. And so it's gone from small collaborations to having a purpose. I don't know if that answers your question. I hope so.
No, and I told Nick, because Nick Pasquale, Pens by Pasquale, is local to me. And on July 4th, myself, Needle Girl, who's a pen person in the community, and Olive Octos, we were at the local stationery store in Columbia, Butler Stationery. And Nick's like, hey, why don't we go to the shop and I can show you pouring a blank? So we go there, and he's kind of giving us the tour. We're looking around, and he's like, oh, and these are all these blanks. And then this tote here, these are Azizah's. And then this next tote here, these are Azizah's. And then the next tote here, these are Azizah's. So I told him I'd give you a hard time because you have 3 totes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Different blanks that are eventually going to be pens down the line in the future.
Yes.
And you were the only person that had multiple totes, much less 3, in his small little home shop. And I just thought that was great because, you know, that really shows that, you know, you appreciate his work and, you know, the different collaborations and whatnot. But
I do.
You know, seeing that just made me laugh a little bit because, you know, that he could just make pens for you and do a great job with.
And I always tell him, I'm like, intersperse me with your other projects. I'm like, do other commissions. I'm like, I am just throw me in there somewhere. And so he'll pour material. I'm like, that needs to go in my bucket.
Well, and that made me think, because when we were pouring the material, Christy, Needle Girl, had a dress that had a pattern of like the Van Gogh, the Starry Night.
Right.
And we're like, what are we going to pour material? It's like, why don't we use the dress color? So that's what they use. And he poured 4 blanks and kind of like a little test thing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You know, it turned out great. So that was just a neat thing of finding that inspiration of, okay, what are we're looking around the room. Oh, this is an option.
Everywhere.
Let's do that.
Like, that's what collaborations have taught me, is that inspiration is everywhere. And I think I had a really rough couple years. Like, I was separated and divorced, and I just kind of lost my way in the pen world. So I really had to reestablish for myself who I was in the pen world. And collaborations helped me so much because it allowed me to look at what inspired me and bring it to people, like bring it to pen lovers and ink lovers and paper lovers and friends. And like all these people have become friends, like the makers and collaborators and people who love the inks or love the pens and are like, oh my gosh, this is such, like, this pen makes me so happy. it its inspiration is everywhere, and I needed it so badly. Like, I needed that. And so in a way, it saved me from getting lost in a world that wasn't the pen world, because I thought to myself, do I stay here? Like, do I even stay in the pen world? Do I have a place here? And I found it again in collaborations because everyone's just so wonderful. So it's been a really tough journey, but really it's a revelation for me, and has, in the end, much like the blog, it has worked out in a beautiful way. So I'm really pleased.
Well, and if you think about, people who go to a lot of pen shows, they don't go to buy anymore. They go to see all their friends that they
Exactly.
live all around the world, all around Narnia. And then they're going to be in the same place as you, from different states, different countries, different whatever, and you can actually hang out with them in person. And you can sit at the same table and say, "Hey, try this pen." You can put it in their hand. And then, the same for you. You get to try stuff out, or, oh, wait, you might find that next ink that's going to go in another Opus 88. Who knows? You
that has totally happened.
Be trying one, and then you're like, but that's where the community part comes in, is, the community. So far, ever since I've been in the, the hobby, you kind of find those people, and they all support each other. Like we said earlier, there's always going to be a bad apple here or there, but
for
the community in general, they want to support each other. They're not, especially makers. I don't think hardly any makers view each other as competition. They view them as counterparts.
They're
counterparts. They're not competition, because
right.
The person going to the show, they're going to want to pick up one of those floral finios from Papa J, and they're going to want to pick up one of the Pasquale pens, or one of the TriStar, or one of the whomever. And the makers help teach the other makers. Having just the last interview I did with Luke from Papa J, Pasquale taught TriStar pens. TriStar helped teach Luke. So that's 3 levels there of, now it's multiple pens from 3 people, who all was just one person saying, "Oh, I can help you learn how to do that. Let me show you what we're doing."
And they've all developed their own style, so everyone's different. Like, no one is the same.
Yeah. And that's one thing I appreciate about the makers is, there's some, they want to pour blank, some just want to make pens, but they all kind of self-police. Once again, any community, there's some people who don't follow kind of the unwritten, unspoken, as to be expected, but that group, they view themselves as counterparts, and they kind of self-police. So you want to make something that's your own take, and there's only so many things you can do, because in the end of the day, it's a cylinder that makes marks on paper. But
it's a pretty ink stick.
There's so many different ways to, make that your own, and then, it's going to find its audience, and then people are going to want one of all of them as they go. So speaking of, finding your place in the pen world, one of the few things that is living on is the magazine. So how did you get into writing and, being a contributor for Pen World magazine? Because, I don't remember the last time I actually picked up a physical magazine. And the fact that that's still ongoing is great. And it makes sense in this hobby. But kind of talk about how you were able to, use your blog to go into actual writing and physical media, and how that came to be.
So I started writing for them in 2018, and it was the editor that reached out to me, and I had met them at, I think it was the Dallas Pen Show, and so I had met the team of Pen World magazine at the show, and it was just we just got along really well. And I guess they looked at my blog and they were like, "Wow, this person really likes pens." And so they just reached out to me with an opportunity to do an article. And I don't even remember what the first one I did was, but I've done mostly ink articles, which makes sense because they're thinking, all right, this person really likes ink. Let's make use of that. And I'm so fortunate to get to write for them because I have so much fun with it, and I occasionally get to do interviews. So like my last article was actually on the Pen Addict on Brad, and like it's so funny interviewing people who I know, but I'm trying to get answers out of them that I can present to an audience who doesn't know who they are. So it's been it's like it's a challenge, but in a really fun way. It's never stressful. It's never pressure. It's always like, yes, I get to write a fun article about something that I'm already super in love with. Like I love the Pen Addict. He's amazing, and like I love inks. I get to write about brands of inks and do testing and swatching, and like I'm like, this is my blog in print, if that could be a dream. My blog just being printed. So it's like the same thing. It's just an extension of who I am. And then people read it. Hopefully.
No, and that's actually how when I started doing this interview series, I had a list of people who I'm like, at some point, I'll get this to where I can interview these people. And you were one of the ones because you've been around. You're one of the OGs in the community.
I'm old in the pen world.
Well, but having that list of the people who have helped other people get into this, I wouldn't be here doing this now if you hadn't started writing a blog in 2010, or if Brad hadn't started Pen Addict, or
right.
You kind of set the foundation for this being a hobby and people needing to talk about the hobby. So
yeah,
it does come full circle, but on one of his streams, because I'm relatively new to watching Twitch, that wasn't something I ever really did, and now I'm like, oh, there's streams, I can watch this while I'm working.
Right.
Someone
like
was talking
tune in
about,
and enjoy it.
He shared the article, and it was like the picture of you and him with the article. Kind of the cheesy picture, but
yeah, exactly.
That's like, oh, okay, let me write that down in my notes, so whenever I eventually interview Azizah, I'll have that to ask about, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
it was fun. It's really fun. I really enjoy it, and I cannot emphasize enough how fortunate I am. I've just been really fortunate to have such wonderful opportunities. Like, not everybody will have these, and it could just be because, I mean, I've worked hard. I do think I've worked hard, and I've had lots of trials and tribulations, but I'm so lucky to have such awesome people also supporting me. Like, when I first started my Patreon, like years ago, like Brett was one of the first people to sign up and support me. And it's like the makers, like the people in the pen world support each other, not just makers, but other bloggers, other YouTubers. I love to see new YouTubers come out talking about pens, just because I'm like, yes, the more people doing this, the more our hobby is going to grow, and the more friends we'll make, the more people will feel welcome into the pen world. All of this is good stuff, and I want to encourage it in any way I can. So it's really nice. Like, it's a good feeling.
No, for sure. And that kind of leads into my next question. So, you had the Patreon that helped you kind of grow the Gourmet Pins world.
Mm-hmm.
When did you add in the podcast? Because that's
yes,
podcast, and like even this kind of video interview podcast, I'm tending to prefer it because you get to have a conversation. It's two-way communication versus just making something and hoping people are like, oh, I want to watch that. So when did you add the podcast in where you have a little bit more interactive, version of talking about the hobby that you obviously love?
Yeah. Well, I used to do the FP Geeks podcast like way back in the day. This was, I don't know, like 2013 or something. And like back then, podcasts were not as popular as they are now. So I I did that for a while, and it was a lot of work. And so I always said to myself, I'm never doing a podcast again, like never again. And then one of my friends, she studied audio and video stuff in school. So she's like really good at editing and all this. And she's like, you guys should do a podcast. Come on, let's do it. Let's just do a podcast. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm like, I'm not doing this again. It's too much work and it's such a big commitment. She's like, let's do it. Let's do it, man. So I honestly, this went on for about 2 years before I caved. And so we're coming up on our 3rd year anniversary in October. So I caved after years of being harassed by her, lovingly harassed. And we just thought, you know what? We need some more women voices in the pen world, because there are quite a few. We've got some really solid people, but in terms of podcasts, there were not that many. And so we just thought we would do it. So now it's evolved to 3 of us as co-hosts, and we're 3 women who are insane about pens. And I do. Every episode is so hilarious, and we have to edit so much because we just laugh. So we just completely lose it. We go off on tangents and we talk about things that have nothing to do with pens. And our poor producer, who is also a co-host now, we do like the video thing and then we just do it in audio, but you can just see her face. She's like, all the time when we start rambling, she's like, and then making a note, she's like, note to self, edit out all of this nonsense. So we just felt like, why not do this? And if it fails, like if people don't enjoy it, then we can always quit, right? But at least we could say we've tried it, we've done it. And here I am, almost 3 years in, we're still going. It's pretty strong. It's definitely a commitment, but it's a hilarious commitment.
Well, and you're getting to it forces you to have fun conversations. Even if, you have to edit a bunch out, you have it on your schedule and you're like, you know what? You might have had a bad day or something, but you're going to go laugh with friends talking about something you enjoy. So it kind of adds that in, and then people get to listen and experience that with you as you're talking about something. And then I'm sure if you haven't put it out, I'm sure there's some great blooper reels, it sounds like, that could just
we should absolutely do that.
That could be put out as a special, like between seasons or something like that.
Yes, it's like not safe for work special.
The supercut, the stuff that didn't make the episode.
Yes, this is like, we could probably do that for, now that we've got so many, we're at 66 episodes. So, but we usually record and so we release like an hour-long episode, but our audio is like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, because it's just so full of nonsense. But the whole point of the podcast was for people who can't watch videos, like whether they're commuting, where we're like, okay, this is a different set of people that can't watch a video. So they're driving in their car, they want to listen about pens, so let's talk about pens and make it fun and make it feel like we're all just hanging out in a room. So that's why we got the whole thing of like, let's hang out, because that's what we're doing. And we just wanted a fun place for others who can't do videos to get to hang out with us and hear the nonsense and just pretend we're like in a pen meet or something, or like at a mini pen show. And it just kind of devolves from there, though.
No, and that makes sense. That's actually why I release audio versions as well, because if people are commuting or they're driving or they're on a train going to a pen show or something like that, you can listen to the audio. And on occasion, people have things in video where, if they want to see that part, they can go back and find the video version.
Right.
And look when Azizah's holding up the
something.
Or like there's only been a couple, like with Olive Octopus Ink. She was showing her swatching methodology. So that really, video makes more sense. You want something you want to see. But a lot of the episodes, it's just having a conversation, getting to learn the history of the maker or the gourmet pens, and getting to have that conversation that doesn't necessarily need the visual. someone's not going to miss out of seeing someone hold up an Opus 88,
Right.
But they're going to find out, if they're not familiar with you, oh wait, there's a YouTube channel. I can go watch her videos, and then I can see that Opus 88 in there when I have a chance to be, in front of a computer or my phone, or just more content that's good content in a hobby you love, versus when you need to zone out from the world, you can zone into something that you're gonna want to listen to at the end of a day or something like that.
I agree. It's just more content, and it's just diversity, different strokes for different folks. Like, not everybody likes podcasts, not everybody likes videos, and so it's just putting ourselves out there to make more people smile.
No, definitely.
Like, that's the whole goal, right? Like, that's what we're here for.
So you mentioned earlier, what are your teasers of some collaborations that you have coming up in the future?
Ooh. Okay, very, very, very soon. So at the DC Pen Show, I will be picking up my next collaboration with Franklin Christoph, it's called Cosmic Collision, and it's actually material poured by Nicholas from Pens by Pasquale, and it is absolutely beautiful. I'm very biased, but it's to reflect the night sky and cosmic collisions occurring. So it's like auroras and sort of like that, but it's more that we wanted to have it across the blanks. You could see the movement as we line up all the materials. And then I also have Pens by Pasquale working on a small collaboration, which will be inspired by a tea house in Alberta. And I think, and then I've got, so the Toronto Pen Show is in October, and it's the 10th anniversary. So I have a 10th anniversary ink that I'll be releasing for that show. And then, because I really hate limited edition things that are really hard to get, I will be putting it online afterwards. So it's just going to release at the show, but I don't want to torture people because I really hate that. It makes me sad. So that's what I've got coming out that I'm allowed to talk about right
now. No, that's great, because I think I've seen that blank. It's very nice living close to pen makers who you get to see stuff at a pen meetup, or hey, what are you working on? You can see it in person without having to spill the beans. But
for sure,
is that the pen that you currently have in your store that's kind of a preview, or is that a different Cosmic Collision that's up there?
It's the same type of material, but it's like a version 2 of the pour. There's probably going to be more movement in it, in like across the materials, like movement in terms of the green swirling and it's all, I mean, not that this is relevant at all to the function of a pen, but it's UV reactive and it just looks really cool.
Well, something cosmic should be UV reactive.
It should be, right? Exactly.
And Nick would be the perfect person to pour that, because his day job of, roller skating rink and black lights.
Exactly.
The perfect person to pour a UV reactive.
He was the right one for it.
So, aside from that, you talked about the collaborations, DC, as from when this is released, this will be released the Thursday before the DC show. So talk about the classes you're doing as kind of a last reminder, if someone hasn't signed up and there's still space. Talk through the classes that you're going to be teaching at DC this year.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm doing a Gourmet Pens casual broad edge calligraphy. Really what it is, I'm trying to help people learn the structure of a basic broad edge script like Gothic or Fracture. It seems overwhelming, but I've got it broken down so that we're learning components of each letter. So we're drawing the letters. And I just want people to be able to learn the techniques in the class with me so they can go home and practice, so that they can do like the casual writing that I do in a lot of my videos, because I get a lot of questions like, oh, what script is that? And I'm like, well, I don't really know. It's just a tweaked version of my handwriting. And so what I did was I simplified it so that people could learn the basics of it. So that's one of the classes. So that one's a little more instructional. And then there's always the fun one. There's Inky Messes. And so Inky Messes is we're going to learn how to have fun with what we have. And that one is don't wear white clothing, and maybe bring like Amedex with you, because you might end up with ink on your face, in your mouth, in your ears. I say this because it's happened to me and to other people. And it's just a really fun class. And I think it's a really good class for people who have a lot of pens but feel intimidated by them.
No, and I can see that. I'm sure there's people who they get a pen, they only ever write, and their biggest fear is putting a drop of ink on the paper next to what they wrote. And then you're essentially helping them realize and giving them permission in a way to throw ink all over the paper.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
See what happens. And then you can still do your writing. But when the accidental ink drop, turn it into something, decorate it, make it into something that is going to let you have fun with it.
Yeah.
Don't view it
don't
as
feel bad. Don't stress. And the biggest thing, it's not a waste of ink. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I can only write with my pens. Like, I can't waste the ink. I'm like, who gets to decide that it's a waste of ink? Nobody. There's no body saying, oh my gosh, you wasted your ink. So I encourage people. I'm like, we're going to throw ink on the page now. So get ready. And then we do like big inky splats. And sometimes I have them put their hands in it if they're willing. Sometimes people are not willing. But I'm always like, wear dark clothing. And maybe wear a smock if you're willing. And you should see the tablecloths after I leave hotels. This time I'm bringing extra tablecloths because I feel very bad. I once did Inky Messes on white tablecloths, and when we left, it was clearly not white. And I was like, I hope this works out okay. Everything is dye-based, so everything should have washed out, but
That's where you just have to put in on the talking to the pen show organizers. For my room, I need black tablecloths.
Exactly. I need to be able to conceal the damage. I need to hide what we're doing.
No, that's great. So, DC will be this weekend, but what other shows do you have on your schedule for the rest of the year?
For the rest of the year, I'm just doing the Scriptus Toronto show, which is at the end of October. And then my next US show is Philly in 2026.
Okay.
So it's going to be a quiet remainder of the year. Although Scriptus is a big deal for me. So, especially because it's our 10th anniversary show this year. But it's well worth coming out too, if anybody's interested. It's a lot of fun. It's one day jam-packed insanity. It's like take a US show and the 3 days and just ram it into like 6 hours. It's crazy. It's exhausting and insane.
That sounds exhausting, just you describing that. Taking all that, cram it all together into one.
All the people, all the energy, all the sales, everything that happens, like everything just happens in the span of 6 hours. And it's absolutely insane. And I dread it every year because it's so much work. But it's so fun because it's just so awesome to see so many people. But it's scary.
No, that's great.
As a vendor, it's scary as a vendor.
No, I could see that. But, well, I think that's going to lead to my final question that I ask everybody. But what is next for Gourmet Pens?
What's next? Well, that's a good question. I barely know what I'm doing in a week from now. So I'm not good at planning ahead. But what I really would like to continue doing is I've been doing live streams on YouTube, and what's come out of it is a little world of friendships of people who I'd never met before. And it's just like the social media thing. It's just people who started becoming regulars, and now these are people I am fond of and come to expect to see them and worry if they're not there. And I just want to continue growing communities where people feel like they can go somewhere that is safe and welcoming. And because that's really important to me. So whatever I do, however I continue to do it, I want to maintain that feeling for myself and for others.
No, that's a perfect way to, kind of wrap up this, wonderful conversation.
Awesome.
Where you want to continue doing what you're doing and spreading the hobby, where people can come in and have no fear of anything and just be themselves, play with inks,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
be around people who are like-minded and want to
Like, we get it.
experience the hobby
Yeah.
and have fun at the same time. So
Yeah.
Azizah, I really appreciate you taking some time, especially with your prep for the DC show. This was a
It
great
was my pleasure.
conversation, and this is one of the top names on the list I can now check off of someone who's like, at some
Thank
point
you
I'm going to
so
get to the point
much.
of interviewing Azizah from Gourmet Pins.
I'm so honored.
So that's going to be great. And if you're new to the show and listening, check out the previous episodes. There's been some great guests so far, from makers, store owners, and just a whole creative community around the stationery hobby. And if also, you can listen to the audio version on Apple Podcast and Spotify. But for video, YouTube is the place to go. So Azizah, any final words before we wrap this up?
Well, I just like to say, stay inky.
Perfect way to end it. So until next time, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.